Hi coaches, Lee Dunn here with another game of the week. We are looking at counter-attacks. We'll start with a simple explanation of the field. As you can see, it's a shorter field. We've added in what would look like end zones. We're probably looking at about 20 by 20. It's a simple 2v2 game with more players. You can play 3v3. And the simple idea of the game is that, as you see our red player here, they've got the ball. When he or she shoots, if she scores, then she stays on the field and we carry on playing 2v2. However, if she misses, you see the red arrow, she makes that run around the target cone at the top and around it and back into the game. Now, the idea is that the blue team then would grab a ball. We have plenty of balls around the goal right here. They grab a ball and they play. So in the time it takes for this red to get around the cone, it gives the blue team a 2 or 3 second advantage to play a 2 versus 1 against this player here. Ideally, this encourages the counter-attack. We're able to exploit the fact there's only one red defender, so the blue team can recognize that there's the one defender and they can work together to get in and score a goal down here. The same thing would happen if the blue player, let's say this blue player here, shoots. Whatever happens, if they miss, if they don't score, no matter, they go around the cone around here and back into the game. Remember, if they score, they stay in the game and keep the numbers up. One of my favourite things about this game is it encourages the team in possession to look after the ball, to not panic, to not kick the ball away, to not shoot aimlessly without a repercussion for losing the ball. Of course, if they score, they get to stay in the game and it maintains as a 2v2 game. However, when they miss, there's a consequence for our team. We've lost the ball, we've given it to the other team. And so, in encouraging them to make better decisions, they learn from mistake. They learn that their mistake is if they miss, they're going to have to run and hit that cone quickly. So while our red players is out, it gives our blue team a chance to play 2v1. And in all the previous games of the weeks where we've had 2v1 or 3v2, I've highlighted plenty of opportunities there of how the two blues can beat the one red. Now here the challenge is, of course, that this red is recovering and they're going to be coming around this cone as fast as they can to get right back into the game. But until they get back in, it is a 2v1. And our blue player here is going to get the ball. They've got a decision to make. Do they pass the ball out to our blue player out here, or do they dribble out into the space? Now, a lot of this is going to determine on how quickly they can get the ball, where the red player is, but then also where the red player that's done the lap, and also what this red player here is doing. Of course, if we were working on the defender, we'd want them to cut off the passing angle, but hopefully your coaching will encourage this blue player to keep their width, so that there is always a passing opportunity. Because if we let the red player stand in the way here, it cuts off that passing option, and then it also means that this red player recovering is going to come right back in and crash in on the ball. So the blue team have got to be clever, and they've got to be really quickly here too. Starts with the shape of the second player that's supporting with that width, but then also the player on the ball. They don't have to pass it, just like in all the other games. We encourage them to maintain possession, but they can maintain possession with a dribble. Then, of course, if they have the space, this is what we're looking for here. This is our reward. This is our 2v1, and this is what is going to take us into games when the players can start to recognize when they have a numbers up opportunity. I would encourage your players to create an element of something like a code word or some kind of action word that is going to spark them into life. So, for example, we have our coach here, of course, on the sideline seeing everything in the game, but they can introduce coaching words too. So for our players, if the red misses and then they have to take that run, now the blue team, it could just be a simple case of saying counter, and that is a word for them where they now know that it's good and it's safe for them to get the ball and attack. And ideally we'll have the blue team or even the red team before the game come up with this point. What is the word that we're going to use that's going to mean the same thing to our entire team? Is it counter? Is it run? Is it, score quickly? Whatever it is. And then I would actually encourage you to share that with the parents so that they can begin to understand, because a lot of the time a player will be out, it'll be a 2v1 situation, and then all sorts of things could be shouted, from kick it to chase it to go, 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 score a goal, whatever it is, but none of that's really going to help us. So we work on it in practice in here and use simple words like I like counter. They know that they're going to use this 2v1 and it builds familiarity with the situation. They know they have a numbers up situation. So a final few points on this game for you. The fact of our 3-minute time limit here, that's a max as always. 3 minutes of 2v2 is a lot, especially with including these recovery runs to then give ourselves a chance of counter-attacking. So there should be some high intensity play in here. No, they're not always going to be running, but it is 2v2, it is a lot of work. So we're looking, if we're practicing in the middle of the week, probably look for a scale of between 7 and 9 on that RPE that we've discussed before. the RPE, the rate of perceived exertion. So a 7 to 9, we're going to be looking at probably down to about 1 to 2 minutes, depending on the age of your players. This is going to really challenge the players. Now, if we're looking at practicing on a Thursday or a Friday or even a Monday after practice, you might consider looking at to about a 4 or a 6. Again, this is just their perceived exertion. So how do you feel right now? 10 being the hardest thing you've ever done. And then you can adjust the practice. You can add more time, or if you have more players, you can certainly look to add in another player here and another player here and make it 3v3. But remember, the more players you have on the field, the less intense it's going to be, the less time they're going to have on the ball, the less time they're going to touch the ball. So just be aware, you could play 1v1 of course, but then you'd be playing 1v0 on the counter attack, which may lead to complacency, but then it also may be a bit of fun for them if you wanted to kind of knock players out through the game. You can certainly adjust as you go through the game. So this was your game of the week for this week, with the counter-attacking and encouraging your two players to maximise those opportunities. Then I would just take this into a scrimmage and play 2v2, 3v3, 4v4 and move the goals back out. So we remove those yellow cones, so our goals would actually be all the way back out. And then, but the same thing, just to ask them to recognise and have the players that identify the game to be able to say, counter, these are our opportunities to counter. And then you build familiarity with the code word that the players then understand what's going on and can maximize these opportunities. Be careful that when we're telling the players to counter, sometimes that just means speed and go as fast as you can, but often that can lead to poor decisions, it can lead to sloppy control. So there's got to be an element of control and composure on the ball too. We're looking for the player on the ball to keep their head up, to take small touches if they need to, big touches to go fast into space, to use the skills that we show them through the skill of the week. And then our second players and third players to maintain offer support. Don't get blocked out, as in this case, if a red player stood here when the blue had the ball, they've completely shut them out of the game, and then it becomes a 1v1 and not a 2v1. So identifying where the players are on the field is going to be really key for the team on the ball to have success. Do they have to score? Yes, of course we want them to score, but they also have to recognize that if it takes our blue player in here a couple of seconds to get the ball, and then the red player has already come back into the field, we've lost the opportunity to play a 2v1. So then our blue player out here, that would be our number 4, our number 5, maybe even a number 2 from the right side, may have to check out and receive the ball a little deeper so they can play 2v2 and problem solve that way. We've played 2v2, we've played 2v1, hopefully the players are well comfortable in what they're doing in the game. If you have any questions, definitely reach out to me, but otherwise enjoy and give me some feedback on the game, if it's successful, if you've started seeing this type of play in practice, and if you have your own kind of keywords too. Counter was one of my favourites, but maybe you have something different. Thanks, enjoy.